At 1:17 a.m., on a chilly October night in 2024, I jolted awake to an eerie stillness in my suburban home in Willow Creek, a quiet neighborhood tucked away in upstate New York. The hum of my smart home system had vanished. The ceiling fan stuttered to a stop, the hallway light flickered and died, and my phone charger gave up the ghost. My husband, still half asleep, mumbled, "Power surge." I slipped out of bed and peered through the blinds. The sky was clear, stars sharp, no hint of a storm. But across the street, our neighbor Laura stood on her porch, wrapped in a shawl, sipping coffee under the smug glow of her motion sensor lights the only house still lit. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a blackout. It was a calculated strike. Laura, the iron-fisted president of our homeowners association, with her clipboard and her endless rulebook, had just thrown down the gauntlet. What she didn't know was that she not only cut my power, but also ignited a war she couldn't win. Because I don't just live here, I control the utility hub that powers this entire street. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped into the crisp night air, my breath visible as I followed the stone path to the utility pole at the edge of my yard. There it was, a clean, deliberate slice through the thick cable, the frayed and still warm, reeking faintly of burnt plastic. No clumsy accident, no squirrel chewing wires. This was sabotage, precise and bold. My backup generator roared to life just then, flooding the yard with light and exposing the crime scene. I scanned the shadows. No storm, no critters, just the handiwork of someone with bolt cutters and a grudge. 12 hours earlier, Laura had marched up my driveway, waving a violation notice about my porch lanterns. Apparently, their soft golden glow was too rustic for the HOA's modern elegance standards. I'd brushed it off, thinking her threats were just hot air. Clearly, I'd underestimated her. Laura ruled Willow Creek like a dictator in yoga pants. She carried laminated HOA bylaws in her purse, issued citations for unapproved flower pots, and once berated a kid for flying a kite that clashed with the neighborhood's visual cohesion. She thrived on control, her ego fueled by petty power. But this time, she'd crossed a line legally and literally. I headed back inside, checked the circuit breakers, all fine, and fired up my hidden backup system, a heavy-duty unit buried under the shed, installed after one too many HOA power plays. It could keep my house running for days. I pulled up the security footage, and there she was, 1:12 a.m., Laura creeping across my lawn in a dark hoodie, bolt cutters glinting under her flashlight's beam. Her face, caught clear as day, twisted with glee as she snipped the line, savoring the act like a villain in a cheap thriller. My blood boiled. This wasn't just annoying, it was illegal, dangerous, and arrogant. She'd tampered with a private energy line tied to the utility hub I co-own, a regional station powering half the town, including her precious house. See, Laura didn't know who she was dealing with. I'm not just a homeowner with a smart fridge. I'm a grid engineer, part owner of the Willow Creek Substation, and I'd routed my home through a private conduit for exactly this reason. I didn't trust the HOA. Her little stunt hadn't just killed my lights, it triggered a digital alert in the hub system, logging the disruption with timestamps and telemetry. She thought she was playing checkers. I was playing chess. At 2 a.m., my colleague Sam, a night shift tech of the hub, called. "Yo, your house just flagged a manual disconnect. You good?" I grinned. "Better than good. Log it as tampering." "I got video." He laughed. "Want me to flag her address too?" I didn't hesitate. "Do it." By sunrise, I was on my deck, coffee in hand, house fully powered, exporting the footage to a hard drive. Laura strutted down the sidewalk in her signature blazer, her smugness practically a heat wave. She froze when she saw my lights on, her eyes darting to my utility box. "Thought you'd be in the dark," she said, voice sharp. I leaned back, letting the silence stretch. Backup kicked in. Funny thing about the Hubit doesn't take kindly to tampering. Her jaw tightened, but she pressed on. "I'm filing a complaint. Your setup's a hazard." I smiled. "File away." "Oh, and check your own meter. I hear unapproved wiring's a big deal during audits." A flicker of panic crossed her face before she stormed off, muttering about grid rebels. By noon, the neighborhood chat was buzzing. Why is Laura's garage light flickering? Anyone else get a weird power dip? I watched from my window as she paced her driveway, clutching her phone. She didn't know it yet, but the hub had flagged her house for suspicious activity, and an audit was coming. I spent the morning compiling evidence, multi-angle footage, hub logs showing the exact moment her cut triggered a spike, even her handwritten violation notice about my offensive lanterns. It was a slam dunk. I drove to City Hall, filed a tampering report, and ran in my old friend Nate, a utilities officer. He skimmed my evidence and whistled. Laura again? She's toast. He promised to escalate it. Back home, I noticed a city truck at Mrs. Rivera's place. She told me Laura had reported her mailbox for being too colorful. It wasn't just me. Laura was targeting everyone, building a rap sheet of petty tyranny. At 3 p.m., a garish HOA van rolled up, Laura at the helm with her lackeys, Tim and Cindy, in tow, all sporting neon vests like they were raiding a crime scene. "We're here to inspect," she barked. I stepped outside, arms crossed. "You need a court order or a city permit?" "Got either?" She bristled, citing some outdated HOA rule, but I cut her off. "State law trumps your clipboard." Smile for the camera. Her eyes flicked to my security lens, and she faltered, retreating with her minions in tow. 10 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up. Officer Chun, who I'd worked with on grid security, stepped out. "She's claiming you're stealing power." I laughed, showed him my setup, and handed over the evidence folder. He nodded. "This is airtight. She's facing tampering charges, maybe federal since it's your hub." As he left, I caught Laura peeking from her window, her face pale. That night, my phone pinged with a motion alert. I opened the feed. Laura, at midnight, sneaking to her meter box with a janky device, some half-baked bypass rig, wires dangling like a bomb from a bad movie. I shook my head. She wasn't just doubling down. She was sprinting towards self-destruction. The next morning, the street was tense, like the air before a lightning strike. At 11 a.m., 2 utility inspectors in crisp polos parked near Laura's house. She rushed out, all fake smiles, trying to charm them. But they were all business, heading straight for her meter. When they opened it, her face crumpled. They pulled out her homemade device, a mess of tape and exposed wires, and started snapping photos. A second van arrived, energy compliance, the heavy hitters. Orange flags went up around her yard, and Laura's protests turned to pleas. Neighbors gathered, pretending to walk dogs or check mail, whispering about her downfall. "Mrs. Rivera leaned in. She reported my fence last week. Now this." I nodded. The loudest ones always fall hardest. By evening, Laura was a wreck, slumped on her porch, clutching a citation for utility code violation, infrastructure tampering. The HOA board called an emergency meeting, and the group chat exploded. She fined me for my wind chimes. She said my dog's bark was unharmonious. Laura was ousted, her reign over. A week later, her house went up for sale, her lawn grew wild, and her lights stayed off disconnected for safety review. Then came the final blow, a lawsuit. Laura sued me, claiming I'd orchestrated a power conspiracy to ruin her. My lawyer, Jen, laughed. "She's handing us a shovel." We countered with everything: videos, logs, reports. In court, her case collapsed. The judge tossed her suit, ordered her to pay my fees, and referred her for criminal charges. She left the courtroom trembling, her empire in ashes. Months later, a moving truck hauled away Laura's life. No one waved goodbye. The new HOA president, Mr. Ellis, hosted a block party, grills, music, kids running free. My lanterns glowed without a citation. A neighbor clapped my shoulder. "You took her down clean." I shrugged. It wasn't about revenge. It was about peace. Laura's house sold to a young couple who painted the mailbox purple. No one complained. I kept the footage, not for spite, but as a reminder. Real power isn't control, it's patience. And maybe, just maybe, I added a motion sensor by my utility box. If anyone gets too close, it plays Laura's voice from an old HOA meeting. "I am the law." It's soft, just enough to make you chuckle and walk away. So what do you think? Was I too harsh? letting Laura's own actions bury her? Or did she deserve every consequence? Should HOAs have this much power, or are they just playground for petty tyrants? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you're Team Sanity, and subscribe for more stories where control freaks meet their match. Let's keep this neighborhood drama rolling. What's the wildest HOA story you've got?